Hi everyone, welcome to Catching the Next Wave of Talent Evolution, an inspiration event from Cpl TEG Talent Evolution Group, which represents our continued commitment to expansion in Ireland, the UK and Europe. It also represents the unveiling of our 7 talent meta trends white paper, developed with the Future of Work Institute. This is an exciting day for the CPL Group as we further evolve our talent solutions expertise to create transformational talent solutions and experiences for clients wherever they are on their journeys of evolution and growth. Now, before we move on to the discussions, Áine is going to speak a little bit about the past, the present and the exciting future of CPL Talent Evolution Group.
At CPL's Talent Evolution Group, we've had the privilege of working with some of the most innovative and global leading companies. We started developing and partnering with our clients on managed talent solution programs before there was even the terms RPO or MSP. This came from our fundamental philosophy within CPL of how can we be better at helping our clients. This led us to building more programmatic and long-term client solutions, and I'm really proud to say that we have retained some of these clients for nearly 20 years. The key ingredient to our deep-rooted and long-term partnerships and our sustainability of these long-term programs comes from the fact that we recognise that we need to be at the forefront of the evolving talent landscape, so that we bring leading-edge thinking to the solutions that we provide to our clients and support them in their talent journeys and decision-making, no matter what stage they are at. Ultimately, our business is built around the needs of our clients, and this has led us to our core value of being client-centric. We recently rebranded to Talent Evolution Group, and it was really important that we found the right name for us, because we wanted it to be something that would represent what we do, but also give us a North Star for our own future development. Over the past number of years, working in partnership with our clients and leading organisations across the globe, we've come to realise that it's not just our ability to provide and develop solutions, but it's our ability to evolve solutions to meet our clients' needs that is the key to helping them prosper in an ever-changing talent environment. This concept of evolution and the recognition that we're going to have to create new elements to meet future challenges is really aligned to our future forward way of thinking. We are moving into a space that is at once more human-centric and is also more technology-enabled. Our talent strategies have to move beyond core competencies and skill sets towards meaningful work and a workforce that is not just equitable and diverse, but is very much also inclusive. We are now seeing that these skill sets are augmented by technology, and competencies such as adaptability and agility are becoming more in demand. Our aim is to bring our learning and our expertise from talent attraction, EVP, PVP, data-driven insights, and leading-edge talent strategies to our clients today and into the future.
Thanks Áine, and now on to the white paper, developed over a 6-month period between CPL TEG and the Future of Work Institute. It highlights the 7 meta trends leaders need to know and act on in order to find and retain the best possible talent. The white paper is a result of real-world insights and learnings working with some of the world's most respected organisations. Now, we won't be able to cover everything on this fireside chat, but for those wanting to know more, please click on the link provided. This white paper very much represents CPL TEG's commitment to be continuously at the leading edge of talent innovation. And I'm very much looking forward to discussing it now with Áine, Ben and Jason. Áine, you talk a lot about a total talent approach in the white paper and this idea of being global, data-driven and experience-centric. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that trend?
Yeah, well, I mean, really about those 3 core elements coming together, and I think that's the greatest synergy about it. When we talk about being global and broad, it's really, before COVID, we were already moving towards kind of decentralized and hybrid ways of working. Now, COVID really accelerated that to a more common practice, but what this has meant for our talent strategies is that we now need to reassess them and look at how we can broaden our scope, not just from a proximity and a geographical region, but also what is the appropriate talent for our organisations. So organisations starting to look at how they build programs to attract, moms returning to work, to attract people with disabilities and neurodiversity, to bring that additional element into their organisations. And I think, this is really backed up by an area that I'm a bit geeky about because I really do love data and I really do love how it.
I knew you were going to come on to the data.
You already know me. Yeah. And one of the things that I've definitely, I was reading an article the other day, and it said that by 2030, the data we gather is going to increase by tenfold, and by 2050 that could be as much as 10,000-fold.
Yeah.
So it's not just about us gathering data, but it's actually how we utilize data and how we interpret it and how we build insights. So when we come back into that talent strategy, just on kind of the global and broad level as well, it's actually about using those data insights to inform our decision making and inform our strategies and then evaluate them. It's interesting. You can see really easy things like, the day after the kids go back to school after summer holidays, applications for jobs increase, or that lull between Christmas and New Year's, applications increase because people are thinking, oh my God, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
But on a more practical level, it allows companies to actually assess their own skill sets and competencies and look at what they need in their organization today, but actually what they need in their organization in the future.
Yeah.
And using those data sets to actually then build a talent process everywhere from the job descriptions to the recruitment process, the interviewing and assessment, all the way through to the candidate journey that brings in competencies and skill sets that brings value to the organization today, but actually, for 5 and 10 years in the future. And I think that brings me into the last point around experience, because, candidates, people in this human space, we are becoming more sophisticated in our expectation of experience.
Yep.
We are moving beyond transactional. So when a candidate is entering a process, they're starting everywhere from seeing a job description and making sure that job description is appropriate in attracting a diverse profile, but also then they're going onto social media. They're looking what's being said about that company. That's all part of their experience.
Yeah.
The first person they speak to when they're looking and interested in applying for a job, all the way through to the people they meet during the interview process, and even making sure they have a positive experience, whether they actually get the role or they don't get the role, because they could be the future person, or someone they know could be the future person. So that data centricity and allows us then to measure that and make sure that we have good candidate experience. But journeys not all the way even through the interview process, but actually candidates are now looking to understand not just what's my career in this company, but what is my experience and journey in this company. So I think they're really the core elements and how they interplay together to allow us to enhance the value we're bringing from a candidate process into organizations today.
Yeah, that's great, Áine. I think it's one of the reasons we spend a lot of time with Cpl, TG and the Future Work Institute on really understanding those frontiers, right? The frontiers of experience, the frontier of human motivations and behaviours. Jason, I might come to you and talk a little bit more about the data-driven side, right? So obviously these solutions, RPO, MSP, very much become, the foundation is very much data, right? Both from a client perspective, and from a candidate perspective, and from, supplier's perspective. So how important is data, in talent solutions in the modern age?
Huge.
Yeah.
So data-driven solutions underpin everything that we do. Whenever we speak with our clients, whether they be existing or new clients, the conversation always normally starts at data. And it's quite surprising actually when we talk with new clients how little data they actually know or they have internally in order to make the decisions that they think are correct. So sitting down with them and being able to really sort of take a deep dive into their operational processes, the delivery, what those processes are delivering, and then how that then affects the business as it develops and moves forwards. The way in which we operate TEG is very much focused on that data piece. So every decision that we make for, not just for our clients, for the solutions and services that we provide them, but for what we do, especially for what we do as a business, is hugely important because it drives everything that we do from not just a candidate engagement process, but an employee engagement process as well. And that employee piece is hugely important as well, just in terms of their understanding of how we're driving the business.
Yeah.
Now, we are a very open organisation, and that data we make as clear and concise as possible to our clients and our candidates and our employees so that they understand the journey that we're on. And if they understand that and they understand their part in it, whether they're working for an end client at a solution or a service, and whether they be joining them on a permanent basis or whether they are a contingent or temporary worker. If they understand their role within that business and where that role is taking the business and themselves, then they are engaged. They're 100% engaged, and that's where you get the maximum productivity out of your workforce. But you get the best success. You get the most success from it.
Great, thanks very much, Jason. And obviously, guys, then when we look at the white paper, one of the big trends called out is this idea of organisations managing, owning, designing a people value proposition. I know we do a lot of work in that space as well. I'd like to open a discussion between all three of us really about, what are you seeing now in terms of, companies and their focus on knowing who they are, how that impacts their ability to kind of capture the right people. Ben, I might start with you. And, what are you seeing out there? We know that, companies have to market themselves better, need to understand their employee message. What are you seeing on the ground?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, it's a really competitive marketplace, as everyone knows, to attract candidates. So having that employer proposition clear is so important for organisations. And I think candidates are evaluating companies so much more around particular aspects of that. What their corporate social responsibilities like. What's their EDI policy. These are really critical things. What are they doing in the space around gender equality.
Yep.
So, and they've got a voice to be able to kind of ask questions when it comes to kind of going into interviews as well. So clients have to be prepared to answer those questions now, whereas I think in the past it was more clients asking questions of candidates, and then maybe you had your one or two questions that you might ask at the end. But they've kind of very calculated, because it's important to them about their focus and the values that they want to work for an organisation that is aligned with them.
Yeah.
And I think also not only is it about attracting candidates, it's also about how you retain them. So you need an internal employer value proposition as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just as important for companies to be clear on how they're going to keep their employees engaged. What are the opportunities going to be for them when they're in the company? Yeah. And I think those are the things that companies are having to really think more hard about and be innovative in that space and keeping up to date with, not just staying in touch with trends, but also making sure that they're applying the right methodology for their organisation, because that culture piece is unique to them, and you can't necessarily take a culture from another organisation and try and drop it into yours, because it may just not work. So I think it's being thoughtful about what you're doing when it comes to trying to attract people.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks very much, Ben. So Áine, obviously we're spending a lot more time now on working with organisations on that value proposition. And I think it's fairly safe to say that, we're into a situation now where HR and talent groups need to be better at storytelling, right? They need to be able to get the story out there. And, it's not about all organisations feeling the same as Ben mentioned. It's actually about really capturing the essence of that business. So, talk to us about the experiences, maybe that CPL TG have had, maybe working with clients, or, what's your own view on the storied approach to attraction?
I think it's, it's two parts, and, we've both had the privilege of working with some leading organisations around this particular topic. And, I think a big part of it is, we do look at that kind of assessment, first of all, looking at the various different spokes around PVP and actually analysing where's the business at today, where's the perception within that business at all levels, from an entry junior level all the way up to a senior management level, because perceptions can be quite different.
Yep.
And then it's really bringing those groups together and feeding back what is coming out of that. And I think we've often found that storytelling element is everyone kind of, they know sort of how they feel, they have that good vibe. I like where we work, we've got a great culture, but then it's like, but what is your culture? And that's the piece. And I think it's about asking the right questions in the right way and having the input from around the business to help unlock those key nuggets, to be able to actually define the culture, define, the employee proposition, and then being able to, to externalize that and for it to be quite real and authentic. I think the best ones we actually see are when a company kind of knows what the fun about them is. They take things very seriously, but they also know that there's a human space and a human element to that employee proposition as well.
Yeah, that's great. I always like to say, it's good for organisations to be like Marmite. You don't have to appeal to everybody. Sorry for those who like Marmite out there. I personally like it, but there you go. Jason, I'm going to come to you on, look, obviously this thing called workforce has changed a lot, right? And it's safe to say that when it comes to any modern workforce, it's a blend, right? It's a blend of different types of employees, permanent staff, contractors, consultants, statement of work people. It's a big mix, right? So, from that perspective, it's called out in the white paper, blend's here to stay, right? So, what are some of the advantages of having a blend, right? And managing that blend properly, with the organizations? What kind of advantage can you get from using this kind of blended workforce?
There are many advantages. So first and foremost, you mentioned a few of the sort of the engagements or the engagement of a candidate. So it could be permanent contract, temporary. It could be on a project basis. It could be a consultant. It could be a gig worker, for argument's sake. The engagement of a diverse kind of bench, if you like, so harnessing that engagement enables a business to become very agile and flexible. Agile and flexible are words that are utilised quite a lot and sometimes not in the right context. But genuinely in this instance, especially as we've gone through this pandemic, businesses now and companies are now realizing, even sometimes not realizing that they have actually now started to do it in a greater sort of meaning. And what I mean by that is that they've had a permanent workforce that is now largely working on a hybrid basis or fully remote. That changes their engagement and their leadership and their management of that workforce. New people coming in, whether it be from different channels, if it's contingent workers, they can bring in sometimes higher skill sets that can help develop and train the permanent members of the staff. Temporary and project staffing can come in just to work on specific projects. And at the moment, we see in the industry that people are cautious with the economic sort of landscape at the moment. But they still have businesses that need to develop. And they need to push forward. So. Now people, I'm seeing this with quite a number of our clients, whereby they're not thinking about mass increases, if you like, or we've got a talent acquisition program that we need to bring in. They're looking more on a project basis. And they're thinking, okay, we're going to focus on the projects. We'll pick 2 or 3 projects that are really going to take the business forwards because they don't want to stand still and tread water, as you would expect. And just by that engagement, they're bringing in more specific skill sets that will focus on those, and it has a great advantage for the business as a whole. But they're able to scale up. And we've mentioned agile and flexible, but they can scale up, they can ramp down as well. And people are now more used to that. As we've gone through, especially over the last sort of 2-3 years, people are used to more of a project focused working. If that's
no, that's really interesting. And it might open up to yourself, Ben, and then to everybody else. I'm kind of, obviously, you bring this kind of blended workforce in. Okay, there are a lot of advantages. Okay, but then also there's complexities, right? And obviously CPL TEG very much part of decreasing complexity around these workforces. So how important is it to have an organization like CPL TEG working with your business to kind of manage, those different kind of, workforce types? Man, I might start with you, and then we can kind of open it up to the guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really critical that you've got someone who can partner with you and be able to kind of look at things from a different perspective. I think businesses their focus is about their business, and they're not necessarily experts in how to attract people and how to manage people sometimes. But I think the world's changing quite a lot, and that's why the workforce has to kind of adapt to the different styles of how we're engaging with the employees. Employees. And so having a different scale available to you, it's then knowing how to utilize that to its full potential. And I think sometimes that's where organizations are not quite comfortable about taking advantage of that. So, there's other aspects to it now, like, there's new roles that are going to be being created over the next 10, 15 years that we don't necessarily know about. And rather than having to go out and constantly find new people all the time, I think that's where things are starting to move away from a roles-based to a skills-based type of approach to attracting talent into your organisations and looking at how people can be utilised in different capacities, because some positions will eventually start to become automated or digitalised, and that'll create new roles. But maybe there's transferable skills that could be moved around in your organisation. And I think the other thing as well is, you should start to kind of understand the DNA of your organisation with trends and different types of, so then you can apply the right workforce. You may not need a particular capacity for a full year, and it might only be for 6 months, and hence you can bring people in on projects and second people across to other pieces of work and work smart there in that case. So hence I think the blended type of working model, whether it's contingent, permanent, using consultancies or contractors, is going to be here for the future. And I think using someone like TEG is to be able to kind of take advantage of how to capitalise that in the best way possible.
No, it's really interesting. And actually, you call out this idea of the skills-based organisation, and this idea of augmentation right through technology. And I'm kind of interested in your views actually on how technology is augmenting the talent space, right? Where are we starting to see different types of technologies helping us to be more efficient? And I might open that up to you, because I know Cpl TEG have a major focus now on applying and utilizing appropriate technologies that either improves things at certain points of those journeys. So I might open that one up to you, Áine, in terms of the tech side of things.
And look, there is no one perfect tech. That's what I'll start out with. And for us in TEG, what we do is we're trying to create an ecosystem of technology that enables us to work with our clients and provide the appropriate technology at the appropriate time, and enhance maybe where they might need, to advance their kind of talent strategies and their talent engagement. So I think, personally within ourselves, we've touched on data a number of times, but that's one of the big tech advantages. We've got to harness the power of the data, and we've got to contain that data somewhere. But it's then coming back to the experience, because again, as people, we have a high expectation these days of everything that we do. And, we don't want to get stuck down in the administration of a lot of work. So technology, I think, has really enabled the user experience, the candidate experience. It's helped automate, kind of a lot of the communication stages now, where, before a candidate might have sent in a CV, sitting back, waiting for someone to call, Back in the days, you'd be sitting by the phone, waiting for someone to call you. Whereas now it's very real time. They can log into systems. They can say, okay, the CV's been received, or it's being reviewed, or, when you're logging into these systems now, there's video. So they're already going on a journey from the moment they start applying. And I think that's where companies have to think about in the future. There's, there's the data set, there's the automation, but there is the experience. And technology helps us enable all of that. And for us to be able to focus on the experience, we're in our business utilizing technology in ways such as AI, so that, we're not just sourcing candidates through our databases and through different databases and connections and networks, but we're actually then looking at the technology being able to give us similar candidates and similar profiles, and we're speeding up that access to talent and that engagement to talent. So actually we are then getting to focus on that engagement as well. So it's really about that ecosystem and looking at each step of the journey and the value that technology can bring to us and digital transformation.
That's really interesting. Jason, I might ask you the same thing, but what are you excited about when we look at the technology landscape and how it can maybe impact the overall candidate experience, and also even from our own workforce perspective, how to help them to be more effective, and actually, as Áine said, more experience centric, right? Because this will free us up,
absolutely.
Right?
Yes, no, it does. It does, and I think it goes back to something we mentioned before, which was our data-driven approach. Without that technology, without us being able to touch on all the various different parts of the process of the not just from the initial engagement of a candidate, but right the way through the entire process. And but part of our focus, we try and we give a total talent solution, if you like, to total talent attraction. And that's not just about sort of engaging them, where to find them. The largest part of the market is the passive market. And it's where it's engaging with those people and bringing them on in the journey, and technology plays a big part in that. From the connection point of view, it enables us also to communicate in real time. I mean,
Yeah.
there's many chatbots that are out there at the moment that are manned by people.
Yes,
They're not just automated chatbots.
Yeah, yeah.
But they immediately flag up that somebody has sent their CV, or if somebody has sent their CV and is inquiring as to where it is in the process.
Yeah.
And the speed of response now is so much faster.
Yeah, yeah.
We certainly don't have any instances where somebody sends in a CV to TEG, whether it be directly to us or to for one of our end clients, where it goes into a black hole. Just doesn't happen anymore. Back in the day, that might well have happened, but. The technology is driving everything that we do. And as I said, every decision that we make, whether it be for us or for our clients, with the services and solutions that we provide, is driven by data.
Yeah.
And as Áine said, there is no perfect technology out there, but the technologies that are there can be utilised in the right manner for the right services and the right solutions.
That's great, thanks very much. And I'm kind of interested, guys, look, I don't want to go past the skills-based bit, because for me, that's part of how organisations can broaden out the potential talent pool, right? And obviously, we're starting to see organisations not needing CVs, or sometimes not even needing a degree anymore to join an organisation. So I'm interested, Ben, just in your perspectives on, if an organisation is taking a much more skills-based approach, what advantages does it provide for broadening their talent pool? And I might open that up to everybody, actually, guys, because I think it's a good discussion point. Because we talked to a number of companies, we've seen it through the development of the white paper. Companies are struggling to broaden that talent pool, and this could be one of those answers to help get that talent. So Ben, maybe over to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think more importantly, it's going to bring a much more diverse range of people into their into their recruitment process. Yeah. And give them more options, which is what people are always looking for. I think it's changing the behaviours as how we go about trying to attract people and looking at different things, and it's not necessarily always just going to be centric around the qualification and the most recent role you've done. It's going to be looking at the wider things you've contributed to when you've been in organisations, and I think companies are relying on people to have that ability to be flexible so they can continue their learning as well. And I think it's a better experience for people to be able to go into organisations where you have those opportunities to be able to move around and not get pigeonholed.
Yes.
And I think the other really important thing there as well is that a lot of organisations have a lot of rules and regulations in place for internal candidates when it comes to moving them around. And I think role-based has always kind of sometimes been a bit restrictive in that instance because it's stopped people being able to progress in an organisation because you didn't fit the criteria or you haven't been there in that role long enough or the percentage. Whereas a skills-based approach will allow organisations to manage their existing workforce much more smartly, maybe retain talent in a much better way and give them better opportunities and not kind of look at people just for the role that they originally were recruited for, but for the skills they can bring to the wider organisation. And that should open up the playing field for them to sort of retain talent, give them better opportunities to grow. But also when it comes to attracting external people, have a bit more of an innovative approach to kind of what things they're measuring rather than the traditional methods that we've used in the past.
I'll turn you into it, and actually I'm going to kind of turn this question in on CPL-TEG, right? Because I like to say that CPL-TEG is a lovable band of misfits and multidisciplinarians, right? And Áine, I know from your perspective, you're a leader who really embraces diversity and embraces what I would call that broader type of talent that maybe mightn't necessarily feel, they tick all the boxes. So I'd love your perspective on what that skills-based, competence-based approach means to CPL-TEG and how you've gotten people onto the team.
Yeah, and look, I think, my journey through my career and over the past couple of decades is really that I've learned that different's good, that different opinions matter and they bring a more creative way of looking at things. They allow us to develop new solutions in a faster way. And I think they also align with our clients because they're also going through these journeys. So, we've put a really big emphasis in TEG that, it's the people person that we're trying to bring in first. And I do mean that, I often say nice is an undervalued word, but nice is a big culture piece for me. So we start off with nice and collaborative and engaged and supportive and creative in our thinking. And then we look at the traditional experience and skills base because I'm a big believer if you have the right competencies and skill sets, if you have the right attitude about a learning culture and an adaptability and a flexibility that you can bring the skill sets in. You can train the skill sets in, but you often can't get that synergy of those cultural skill sets and competencies if you don't have that openness in your recruitment process, and that openness to taking people from diverse backgrounds that really give you new ways of looking at things. I've worked in we've all worked in the talent industry for decades.
A few years.
Not to show ages, but I think the more cultures we have in it, the more diversity we have in it, it's actually people coming up with ideas, and you're like, oh yeah, we've always done it that way, but actually you're right, that is a different perception around it. Yeah. So I think that's what it really means for me within TEG and how we build our organisation to better serve our clients, because really that's what we're about. We're about evolving to meet the needs of our clients and be able to provide them with solutions.
Right. Thanks, Áine. So guys, I want to kind of finish this this panel really by asking you, what's the one word that each of you feel sums up the future of talent? Okay, and I'm going to start with you, Jason, because you've been so confident in your answers so far, and I feel as though I need to trip you up in some shape or form. So I am genuinely interested. Like, what's that one word and why? Right? That sums up for you the future of talent, whether it's retention or attraction or whatever way you want to see it.
One word. I never have just one word.
Okay, well, I'll allow you two, just because because I'm nice to take Áine's.
Okay. First of all, innovation.
Yeah.
We continually have to innovate daily. Yeah. In all parts of what we do, for ourselves and for our clients. I think probably the second word would be wellness.
Yeah.
And the reason I picked that is that we've just talked about it. We've spoken about it for the last sort of 5-10 minutes or so. What I mean by that is. We're talking about skill sets, and that, yes, of course, organisation need to engage certain skills. We as TEG are very much focused, and I'm proof of that, on bringing people in that are open-minded, that are collaborative, that are inclusive. Yeah. We have a diverse workforce that we endeavour to make feel as inclusive as possible, because we've got skills in this business that we engage on a daily basis, and it doesn't matter whether they are sort of administrative skills, coordination, or recruitment skills, or leadership skills. Everybody plays a part within this business, so they feel inclusive. Yeah. From a physical perspective during the day, but also on the wellness side, it's making sure that from a psychological perspective they feel included and they feel in a safe place, if you like, in which to be the best that they can be. Yeah. So I'm quite pleased I put myself to 2 words.
Well done, Joseph. Ben, over to you. You've had a bit more time to think. I could see the cogs whirling there as Jason was speaking. So I'd love your word or two.
Well, I'll just say I think inclusivity is important. I think we have to realise we're dealing with people. Yeah. And I think we can bring in the digitalisation, we can bring in all the technology, but I think ultimately in the day we're a people business, and we're going to make sure we're keeping in contact with what's going on, with making sure we're not including all the groups and the different minority groups, and ensuring that we're continuing to be giving them all the opportunities, and that whatever we're putting in place, it gives them the chance to feel that they're not isolated. And so things like testing, is it appropriate that everyone can feel that they get a fair opportunity to do that? So it's thinking those things through and making sure that the approach is that we're still humanising what we do in our work, and we're talking to people in the day, and we have to deal with people that are unsuccessful as well, but also keeping them engaged. So that they feel that they can have another opportunity, and that this is not the end of the road. So I think it's just going back to that point of remembering that it's people we're dealing with, not machines.
Thanks very much, Ben. Áine.
I'm going to rub a little bit of everything, and I'm going to take 2 words. So I'm actually going to say authentically human. Yeah. And I think we are entering an age where we are recognising that the sum total of all the parts is greater than the individual constituents. Yeah. That if we get to be our whole selves in work, we're actually unlocking new value for the organisations we're working with, whether that's internally or with our client partners, because we are allowing ourselves to be authentic. We're allowing ourselves to be creative and not stuck in, you know, traditional models of way of working, that this is, you know, your job from 1 to 10,
Yeah.
but actually that you're allowed to take a little bit of a detour that brings something new and something magic in. So I think as humanity is growing, as our expectations of being a human are growing, I think we have to bring that into the workforce and adapt our organisations to allow us all to be authentically human.
There's no better way to end that one, Áine. So thanks to yourself, thanks to Jason, thanks to Ben for a fantastic, insightful interview. I will say, guys, we didn't cover everything in the discussion today, and if you want to find out more, please download the white paper on the link provided. Thanks very much. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
Thanks both.